This is CNN.
Thanksgiving on parade in the United States today. Welcome to News Hour. I'm Reid Collins in Washington.
And I'm Bobbie Battista in Atlanta. On the Thanksgiving menu today, plenty of feasting, floats, football, and fanfare. In just a minute, we'll have a live report from New York on the 65th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But first, let's join the thousands thronging other parade routes across the country. In Philadelphia, more than 5,000 marchers kicked off the holiday season. The parade was complete with 8 giant balloons inflated with enough hot air to fill a political convention. Philadelphia claims its 72nd annual parade is the nation's oldest. In Detroit, the 65th annual Thanksgiving Day Parade included a familiar tune with an international flair. Detroit Pistons star Isaiah Thomas is serving as the parade's Grand Marshal.
Almost as much a tradition as turkey and the trimmings, the giant balloons doing that annual air dance down New York's today. And keeping watch over that Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is CNN's Charles Feldman, joined by his sidekick, Chris Taylor.
Yes, good afternoon. We've been here all morning, and the 65th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is over. In fact, behind us, you may be able to hear the humming sounds of the New York City Sanitation Department cleaning the streets even as we speak. Do you have a good time, Chris?
Yes, it was wonderful.
Yeah, pretty interesting, isn't it? We're going to take a look at some of the interesting balloons that went by. Betty Boop was one, right?
Yes.
And Betty had a problem this year. What was it?
Yes, she had a big hole in her moon that she was sitting on. Huge.
So Betty Boop had a hole in her moon and was a bit soft, right?
Yes.
But she still stayed up there, didn't she?
Yes,
Yep.
she did.
And then, other than Betty Boop, Bart Simpson. Of course,
Yes.
Bart is a favorite, and it has been for the past few years, one of the newer balloons. What did you think of Bart this year?
Oh, I think he was great because he didn't fall or touch the ground or hit anything like he did, like the other balloons did.
So Bart was like totally awesome, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then the last one, last but not least, was Bobbie the elephant, who was the newest
Yes.
balloon. What about Bobbie that makes him so interesting?
I think it's a fiction story with him, but I think it's neat to see so many other animals with him and being the king of elephants.
Okay, and then at the very end of the parade, of course, who came along but
Santa Claus.
right, and Santa looked pretty healthy this year, didn't he? Looked well
Yes.
fed.
Yes.
And his sleigh was drawn by, what was it anyway?
Reindeers, and he had his elves around him. Interesting.
Yeah, so not bad, huh?
Yeah.
Now, you were here last year. How did this all stack up compared to last year's parade?
A lot higher.
A lot higher, really.
Yes.
So you give this, what, on a scale of 1 to 10, Chris, with 10 being the absolute greatest and 1 being, which one is it?
I'll give him a 9.
A 9. That's pretty good. That's going to be hard next year to follow, isn't
Yeah.
it? Okay. Well, we'll see what happens next year and see if next year we can make Chris even happier and get a solid 10. Right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Charles Feldman and Chris Taylor reporting live from New York. Thanks.
And thank you. Still ahead on NewsHour, President Bush talks turkey. Mr. Bush uses his Thanksgiving Day address to deliver a message to Congress. That and the rest of the day's news when we come back.
There are 12,296 ways to say it's a Wembley. Every one of them says something special about you. It's Wembley.
For quality and selection, it's a Wembley. Always.
Wonder what's going on here. It must be a Republican party.
Cordon Negro Brut and Extra Dry by Freixenet. There's a party in every bottle.
Herman, you got the cellular phone, don't you?
Sure, I got it. Hello?
Lee Trevino?
No. But hold on. Mr. Trevino!
Did you find it?
I'll find it. Mr. Trevino! I'll find it.
You can find a lot of cellular phones, but only one brand gives you Motorola durability.
Lee, what's wrong? Hello? 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 Ah, nothing, Bob. Someone just got hit by a caddy. So ask for Motorola, because the way we put them together sets us apart.
A man called Dad is the most important man in his life. And even though the time between them has a way of passing a little too quickly, there's one thing that can make it last. A Lionel train. For over 90 years, Lionel has had the power to move two people closer together and let them build something they'll never forget. Look for Lionel trains at toy and hobby stores near you, because no childhood should be without a train.
Hi, I'm Larry King, and happy Thanksgiving. And tonight, the private side of Marilyn Monroe that the public never saw, plus the creative characters of children's author Maurice Sendak. Tonight, Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
You know, a year ago, the Bushes spent Thanksgiving with the troops in the Persian Gulf. Today, they're a little closer to home up at Camp David, the presidential retreat in the Maryland mountains. And it was there that Mr. Bush taped a message to the American people, including a reference to criticism that he's been out of touch.
Many people wonder how a president understands what goes on outside Washington, especially the people struggling to make ends meet. Of course, statistics paint a sobering picture. Unemployment, tight credit, lower home values, sluggish job growth. But real life speaks far more eloquently than bare numbers. I have traveled to 48 states since becoming president, talking, meeting people, listening, learning. And I will continue traveling around our great country because that's one way a president stays in touch with people.
Mr. Bush called on lawmakers to put aside the politics when they return from the long holiday and enact economic growth measures.
In its first year of work, the 102nd Congress did do things to benefit most Americans one way or another, but the lawmaking agenda remains largely unfulfilled. CNN's Candy Crowley on Capitol Hill.
From their first votes in January, lawmakers found their agenda colored by events well outside the Capitol bailiwick. There was little to do in the early months except watch from the sidelines of a war and applaud when it was over. Republicans were still gloating at year's end.
I think the landmark vote of the year obviously was the vote on the Gulf crisis, again demonstrating President Bush's leadership and certainly a victory for America and a defeat for the liberals in the Congress.
Constrained by a budget deal, Congress could not launch any major new programs. Still, on the sheet of major assets, it can count a civil rights bill, reversing a series of Supreme Court rulings which had restricted the rights of minorities to seek redress for unintentional discrimination. A transportation bill to upgrade the nation's roads and mass transit systems. A jobless measure temporarily extending benefits to the long-term unemployed. A veterans bill updating benefits in the post-Gulf era. Subtract from that the debits, the failure to overhaul banking regulations, a measure which suffocated beneath heavy industry lobbying. No crime bill, killed in the final day by threats of a veto from the White House and a filibuster by Senate Republicans. No energy bill, frozen out by the heat of protest over drilling in an Arctic wildlife refuge. Add it all up, and on balance, the majority leader says it's too early to close the books.
As we near the end of the first session, we are in effect at halftime. And so what record does exist must be viewed in that light.
Still, the second half, in the heat of an election year, is likely to be a rougher game.
The whole session seemed to be steeped in pretty biting politics out there. That may very well be a precursor then for next year's presidential election year.
The art of petty, sometimes vicious politics provided Capitol Hill with some of its most controversial moments, primarily at the unprecedented public airing of allegations that now Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas sexually harassed a former employee. Add to that primetime event an ethics scandal involving the owner of a failed savings and loan, house-side foibles involving unpaid meal tabs and bouncing checks, and a dark-of-the-night Senate vote raising its own pay. And some lawmakers don't see a whole lot to write home about.
This is not a Congress that many people should feel very proud of. The Congress has sort of fallen into a pattern of working very hard and taking credit for the speed with which we spin our wheels.
The fact is, few lawmakers left Capitol Hill completely satisfied. It may be the price of democracy, where each vote weighs as heavily as the next. As Majority Leader Mitchell is fond of saying, if I were king, things would be different. But on Capitol Hill, nobody is king. Candy Crowley, CNN on Capitol Hill.
And just ahead on NewsHour, the rest of the day's news. The Libyan leader Gaddafi turns aside demands to hand over the Pan Am 103 suspects. And some high-flying Thanksgiving in space.
Something happens between the weddings and birthday parties. It's called the rest of your life. That's why we created America's most popular camcorder, the Handycam, from Sony.
Presenting a way to make life a lot simpler. The Clapper. Turn on a lamp. Turn on the music. Turn off the TV. Use it anywhere you need a helping hand.
Simple.
Plug it in and insert the plug from just about anything.
Simple. Clap on, clap off, clap on, clap off, the Clapper.
Give it a big hand.
The Clapper is available at Woolworth, Walgreens, Eckerd, and participating True Value. Makes a great gift.
If every dog in the world were the same, all we'd make is dog chow, with 43 essential nutrients and meat and bone meal for the taste dogs love. But dogs are different. That's why we make dog chow, puppy chow, fit and trim, and Purina High Pro. Pet tested, veterinarian recommended.
This week on TNT's Centennial Sunday, a dangerous game played by a family raised on deception ends in murder. The epic Centennial continues Sunday at 2 Eastern on TNT.
Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi says he will not allow 2 men accused of bombing Pan Am Flight 103 to be extradited. The U.S. and Britain have demanded the 2 be turned over to stand trial, but Gaddafi says his government couldn't locate one of the men and says the other has no connections to Libyan intelligence. Gaddafi says he wants a neutral party, such as the United Nations, to look into the matter.
We won't accept the proofs the Americans say they have against us. Their proof against Libya is less than a fingernail size. It is ridiculous. They say they have decisive proofs against Libya, and that's it. This is disinformation. It's deceit of the public opinion.
Colonel Gaddafi also barred the extraditions because Libya has no extradition treaty with either the U.S. or Britain.
Israel is refusing to give in to pressure and reaffirmed today its refusal to come to Washington next Wednesday for another round of the Middle East peace talks. It is the sole holdout for that date. Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and the Palestinians have all accepted the invitation, and they say the show will go on whether Israel turns up or not. A temporary shelter at the U.S. Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, said to be nearly filled with Haitian refugees now, and officials are working to increase the camp's capacity from 2,500 to perhaps as many as 15,000. The refugees say they're terrified, some of them at least, of returning to their homeland.
The 6 astronauts on board the Space Shuttle Atlantis woke up to the sounds of turkeys gobbling, but for the most part, they are expecting a normal workday. CNN's Tom Mintier is with us now with more on the day's activities in space. Tom?
Bobbie, imagine spending Thanksgiving in space. There are no real turkeys aboard the Space Shuttle. Everything up there is freeze-dried. All you do is add water. At Mission Control, they are preparing for their meal as well. They will be having turkey on the ground. No real special plans, though, they say, have been made, but the wake-up call was definitely Thanksgiving-oriented.
There's a lot of attention here assigned to the fact that we're flying over Thanksgiving, but...
Try to amend my carnivorous habits. Made it nearly 70 days. Losing weight without speed, eating sunflower seeds. Drinking lots of carrot juice and soaking over rays. But it's night I'd have these wonderful dreams. Some kind of sensuous treat.
If you can't recognize that, it's Jimmy Buffett, Cheeseburger in Paradise. Well, it'll be turkey in paradise for the crew. They have been doing their exercises ahead of the time when they're eating. They have been using a treadmill that doesn't work anymore. A bearing in it seized up, so they have decided to do deep knee bends on it. We have some pictures of the treadmill that Commander Fred Gregory has been working on, and it's interesting to see how they're trying to stay in shape without the treadmill. This is a trash compactor aboard Atlantis. They are unloading all of the food and preparing it for sometime later in the day. The menu is a bit strange. 3 of the astronauts are going to have the traditional turkey and gravy or turkey tetrazzini and cauliflower and cheese and lemonade, crackers, tapioca pudding, but some others are having spaghetti, shrimp cocktail, teriyaki chicken, broccoli au gratin, peach ambrosia, and shortbread cookies. So it is an unusual day in space. Imagine, if you would, if you went home to have your turkey dinner, simply took a little water, put it in the microwave, and out it came as what you thought would be turkey. Up there, they have to, of course, drink it with a straw. So they are going to have a Thanksgiving. It may not be done all at once. They say they may try to sit down all together to have their Thanksgiving, but the work schedule goes on despite this being a holiday in space. 2 of the astronauts have done this before. Story Musgrave and Commander Gregory have had Thanksgiving in space before, so they could probably show the other 4 how it's done. Bobbie?
Well, you know, chicken pox is one of those itching rites of childhood that most of us do pass through. A week or so home from school is one of the advantages, but as CNN's Dan Rutz reports, there is a drug that may have children back in school a bit sooner.
It's been a tough week for little Randy Feldstein. She has the chicken pox.
How you doing? Good. You still itching? Mm-hmm. Are you bad? Mm-hmm.
Chicken pox is as inevitable as the falling leaves. 3.5 million children catch it each year in the U.S. alone. Typically, they miss a week of school, forcing working parents to also spend a lot of time off the job.
Everybody has to go through it. Anything to cut down the length of time that these kids are miserable would be wonderful.
A study in the New England Journal of Medicine involving more than 800 children with chicken pox shows the drug acyclovir, ordinarily used as a treatment for herpes, does at least partially ease symptoms and speed healing for chickenpox sufferers.
They get fewer lesions. Their temperature goes back to normal about 1 day sooner, and the lesions get better faster. They don't have any less itching.
Most children get over the chickenpox within a few days without medication, but 20% suffer a week or longer. Acyclovir could make a difference in that group, although in order to work, the drug must be given the first day of the outbreak, before it's clear whether or not the case will be severe. What's more, acyclovir is expensive.
I think this is going to raise a tremendous amount of controversy because I don't think that anyone knows exactly what the best thing to do is.
Tied into that controversy is a chickenpox vaccine that may be available in another year. Research shows it does work, but it is not clear if the immunity is lifelong. The disease itself generally does provide lifelong immunity, And that's important because chickenpox can be far more damaging to adults than children. A companion study in the New England Journal suggests the vaccine may offer partial protection against shingles, a painful infection caused by a resurgence of the same virus that lies dormant after it causes childhood chickenpox. The vaccine has been tested in children with leukemia because chickenpox is especially dangerous to them.
We strongly believe that if children without leukemia, healthy children, are vaccinated, that the risk of them developing shingles in later life will probably be significantly lower than if they have chickenpox in childhood.
While experts sort out the issues, most children will continue to pick up immunity to chickenpox by having it. Living under the same roof as Randy, big sister Stacy is likely to be next. Dan Rutz, CNN, Atlanta.
And just ahead on NewsHour, the former boxing champ Mike Tyson tries to stop his rape trial scheduled for next month. And our series of reports continues on the William Kennedy Smith rape trial. Today, a look at the accused and the accuser.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Look out! Look at him go!
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going.